April 30th, 1943, the coast of Spain. A body washes ashore. Local fishermen find him, a British Royal Marine officer. His name is Major William Martin. Chained to his wrist is a briefcase containing top-secret documents about the Allied invasion of Europe. The documents make their way through Spanish authorities, to Nazi intelligence, and eventually land on Adolf Hitler's desk in Berlin. Hitler reads them, he believes them, he moves his armies based on this information. There's just one problem. Major William Martin never existed, and the man in the water? He was already dead before he ever touched the ocean. This is Operation Mincemeat, the story of how the Allies won World War II with a corpse in a briefcase full of lies. It was early 1943. The Allies, Britain, America, and their forces are planning their next big move in Europe. They've already pushed the Germans out of North Africa. Now they need to invade mainland Europe. The obvious target? Sicily. This island right here. It's the stepping stone into Italy. It makes perfect strategic sense. But here's the problem. It's too obvious. Even Winston Churchill said, and this is a real quote, "Everyone but a bloody fool would know it was Sicily." And the Germans were no fools. They knew Sicily was coming. They were reinforcing it, preparing for the invasion. If the Allies attacked a heavily defended Sicily, it would be a bloodbath. Thousands would die. So British intelligence came up with a plan so bizarre, so audacious, that if it failed, they'd look like complete idiots. But if it worked, it could save thousands of lives. The plan was simple in concept: make Hitler think the invasion was happening somewhere else. Make him move his troops away from Sicily. But how do you convince the most paranoid dictator in history to believe your lies? Enter Operation Mincemeat. Here's what they did. And buckle up, because this gets wild. British intelligence needed a corpse. Specifically, they needed someone who looked like they drowned. They found a man who died from pneumonia, and this is key. Pneumonia leaves fluid in the lungs, which looks exactly like drowning. The man's name was Glyndwr Michael. He was a homeless Welshman who died in London. His family agreed to let his body be used for the war effort, though they didn't know the details. Now this is where it gets fascinating. They didn't just need a body. They needed a believable human being with a life, a story, a personality. They named him Major William Martin of the Royal Marines. But they went so much deeper. They gave him a fiancée. Her name was Pam. They wrote love letters between them. Romantic, personal stuff. They even included a photo of Pam, who was actually an MI5 secretary who volunteered her picture. They put theater ticket stubs in his pockets, showing he'd been to a London show recently. An angry letter from his bank about an overdraft on his account. They gave him a receipt for an engagement ring. Even keys, cigarettes, matches, everything a real person would carry. Think about this. They created an entire fake life for a dead man. His fiancée, his money problems, his last night out in London, everything. Now for the actual deception. They couldn't just stuff obvious fake invasion plans in the briefcase. The Germans would smell a trap immediately. Instead, they wrote a personal letter from one British general to another. Casual, friendly, the kind of letter generals might actually write to each other. And buried in this letter, a casual mention that Sicily is just the cover story. Everyone thinks we're going to Sicily, but we're actually hitting Greece and Sardinia. It was genius. It wasn't screaming secret invasion plans. It was a general gossiping with another general. April 30th, 1943. The British submarine HMS Seraph surfaces off the coast of Spain near a town called Huelva. They bring up the body, which they've kept refrigerated to preserve it. They've dressed Major Martin in his Royal Marine uniform. The briefcase is chained to his wrist. The officers on board actually read the 23rd Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd," as they slid the body into the water. They positioned him where the currents would wash him ashore near Huelva, a place they knew had Nazi sympathizers who would find the documents and pass them along. And then they waited. Now comes the nail-biting part. The body washes ashore. Spanish fishermen find it. Local authorities are notified. Back in London, British intelligence is watching like hawks. They have agents in Spain monitoring the situation. The question, will the Spanish open the briefcase and photograph the documents? Will those documents reach the Germans? Days pass. Then, confirmation. The Spanish did open it. They photographed everything. And those photographs made their way to German intelligence in Berlin. British code breakers, who had cracked German communications, start intercepting messages. And what they read makes them hold their breath. The Germans believe it. Not just believe it, Hitler himself reads the documents and declares them absolutely authentic. He orders Erwin Rommel, one of his best generals, to defend Greece. He sends reinforcements to Sardinia. He moves naval forces away from Sicily. Back in London, Churchill receives a telegram with just 3 words: mincemeat swallowed whole. It worked. Holy shit, it actually worked. July 9th, 1943. The Allies invade Sicily. The Germans are caught completely off guard. The defenses are weaker than they should be. What could have been a massacre, thousands dead on the beaches, instead becomes a success. Sicily falls in just 38 days. Italy surrenders soon after. The road to Berlin is open, and it all started with a homeless man's body and a briefcase full of lies. So what happened after? The truth about Operation Mincemeat was kept secret for decades. Major William Martin was buried in Spain with full military honors. He even has a gravestone that reads William Martin, born 29th of March, 1907, died 24th April, 1943. The British kept up the charade. They never revealed who the man really was. Spanish locals would visit his grave, not knowing the entire thing was fiction. It wasn't until 1996, more than 50 years later, that historians finally confirmed his real identity. Glyndwr Michael, a Welsh man who died homeless and alone in London, but became one of the most important heroes of World War II. Think about that. A man who had nothing, no home, no family, no prospects, ended up saving thousands of lives. He never held a weapon, never wore a real uniform while alive. But in death, he became a hero. The woman whose photo was used as Pam, his fiancée, she was Jean Leslie, an MI5 secretary. She volunteered her photo for the operation. Years later, she said she felt honored to have played even a small part. And here's something that gives you chills. When they finally revealed the truth in 1996, some Spanish locals who had been visiting Major Martin's grave for over 50 years were heartbroken. They'd been leaving flowers for a man who never existed. But in a way, he did exist. The British had made him so real, so human, that people genuinely mourned him for half a century. The officers who planned this, guys like Ewan Montague and Charles Cholmondeley, became legends in the intelligence community. Operation Mincemeat proved something incredible. Sometimes the most powerful weapon in war isn't firepower. It's a story so detailed, so human, so believable that even the most paranoid minds can't see through it. A homeless man who died alone saved thousands of lives without firing a single shot. That's the power of deception. That's the insanity of war. And that's why this story is so damn incredible. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe for more insane historical tales you won't believe are true. Drop a comment. What part of this story blew your mind the most?